So I was in a Pilates class a couple of weeks ago, and my teacher said something to me that I've been thinking about since. Welcome back to the Bold Beginner podcast. Today I want to talk about the parts of your body, really the parts of yourself that you've kind of stopped speaking to without knowing it, because I think it's a bigger issue than a simple comment at a Pilates class. You're listening to The Bold Beginner, a space for multifaceted women where we explore how to feel at ease in your body when you're being seen. If something here speaks to you, consider subscribing or leaving a review or a comment. It genuinely supports the growth of this space. For context, it was a reformer Pilates class, and at some point during the class, she asked us to do that movement where you are on your back on the reformer and your feet are on the foot bar. And the teacher basically asks you to lift your hips, but they ask you to do that step by step, and they insist on that. They tell you first lift your tailbone and then lift your lower back and so on and so forth. And I was trying, I really was. She did come to me though, and she told me just make sure that you really go step by step and that you lift your tailbone first and not your hips straight away or your lower back straight away. Didn't think too much of it. I tried to improve my form and she tells me, yeah, that's great. Moving on from there. Comes the end of the class and I go to her asking her for some tips regarding my overall lower back flexibility. And I did tell her that I've been working on it for some time and that I'm still encountering issues, to which she said that she did notice, and she added that my spine had the potential flexibility, that my spine can do it, but basically that I didn't know where my lower back was, that it was a problem of awareness rather than flexibility. And I just stood there kind of quiet and intrigued because I wasn't sure what to do with that. Like, how do I not know where my own lower back is? What does that even mean? I've been on this whole reconnection journey to my body for a while now, like a good while, trying to come back into my body after years of just living in my head, mostly living in everyone else's expectations of me. You know how it is. And I thought I was doing pretty well. I still think I'm doing pretty well, honestly. I'm moving more. I've reconnected with my belly breath. I'm definitely way more aware of myself, like in ways I hadn't been before. And then this Pilates teacher with one sentence basically told me I was still a beginner, in the most loving way, but still. What was interesting too is that she was not really surprised when I came to her at the end of the class and that the issue at stake was disconnection. And she reassured me, like, of course she would, but she said that, it's okay that a lot of people have this issue and that the lower back is definitely a place that a lot of people leave first. And I'm still sitting with that because she didn't just mean me. She meant a lot of us, a lot of women out there. And it seems like it's definitely a big thing that happens, like certain parts of our body that go quiet first when life gets bad and gets loud. And I think in my case, my lower back and my hips have gone quiet for such a long time that I really forget that there was anything to feel there at all. Like, I still haven't really recovered, apparently, from her comment, any sense of awareness in that area of my body, despite a lot of work for the past couple of years. The reason why I wanted to bring up that experience that I had is because I think when we talk about disconnection to the body, we make it sound very general. That's how I felt the past few years. That's how I felt my whole life, to be honest. Those big sentences, you're not in your body, you're in your head, get back in your body, that kind of thing that you hear a lot, but precisely at Pilates classes or yoga classes or whatever, they feel themselves quite disconnected. They felt to me very disconnected for the longest, probably because I am so disconnected from my body that it didn't speak to me that much, but it's actually very specific. And I think this little experience that I had was a very good example of that. In this specific scenario, I have been actively working at being back into my body for the past 3+ years. And this definitely proves that you can be in your body and still have entire parts, let's call it neighborhoods of yourself that you never visit. And you just don't notice because you're functional. You're walking around. You're doing everything that needs to be done. Your body is technically working. So how would you even know that there are whole regions of yourself that you've stopped checking in on? You wouldn't. That's the thing. You wouldn't know until someone very gently points at it and tells you about it. I've always had like a kind of a difficult relationship with my lower back, because I think for me, it was definitely where I held a lot of, I guess, pressure, responsibility, whatever you want to call it. That whole region of the body, like the lower spine, the hips, the pelvis, that's where a lot of the weight lives. And there's obviously the literal weight of, being upright, but there's also the weight of like carrying things that you were not meant to carry in life. I mean, caring for other people, carrying things for too long. And I heard many times that the like spine issues and lower back issues are often a very big symbolic of this inability to let go and carrying too much. And sometimes when you take on too much, it ends up collapsing, which is again what happened to me with my hernia. But the interesting bit is that before this hernia, my body had already made a decision, because I was so not listening to it, that it already made the decision to be like, well, if we're going to keep doing this, if we're going to keep taking on so much, we're going to have to stop feeling this part. We're going to have to numb this part, so that as an outcome, I could keep pushing through, until obviously I couldn't because of the hernia. So again, we're back to some sort of protecting mechanism, right? Because it hurts too much to feel this constant pain. So instead we can just numb it. So you can keep moving for a while, you can keep functioning for a while, until again, you can't anymore. But you're going to make sure that you can do that by just avoiding feeling the pain. So I'm not even going to get into the hernia bit of this story for this episode, because that's definitely not the goal here. But I want to talk about this part before you reach the unbearable part where your body just can't take it anymore and you end up being injured, right? Like having physical injuries. I want to talk about this whole time before you reach that point where whatever part of your body is being numb. The problem with this fog that you have in your body, that kind of numbness, that the fact that you're not in touch with whatever area of your body, is that you can't grow in this. You can't really move in it either. Not in a way that's like coordinated with the rest of your body. Things start to compensate for the part that's being numbed and not functioning properly. And other parts of your body are going to start working harder to make up for the part that's gone numb, like inexistent for now. And that's why eventually things collapse. So by the time I had the hernia, I went to see several specialists, and they told me that a lot of things had been compensating in my body for the longest. So my thighs and butt cheeks muscles had been contracted permanently for the longest in order to compensate for the imbalance that my hips had. And I hadn't even felt my hips slowly getting that imbalance because of how numb that part of my body was. So I ended up having injuries in several areas in my body due to that compensation. And so maybe some of you are going to be wondering what it has to do with you, because obviously I'm talking about a very specific example at a Pilates class. Maybe you don't relate to that at all. But I guess this is a chance to reflect a little bit on how connected you've been to certain areas of your body. And if I ask you just right now, as you're listening, to think about your hips or your shoulders or whatever area in your body that you don't pay too much attention to, are they here as you think of them, or you kind of have to reach for them mentally? And I hope this does make sense, but do you feel awareness in those areas? Do you manage to feel through them? Or do you have to really struggle to actually picture what you are feeling through them right now? And what about other parts of your body? Your thighs, the space between your shoulder blades, like parts that you really never pay attention to. And the interesting part is that some of those body parts, you're probably going to feel them right away. And some of them, you're going to be a bit more quiet. Like you're not fully aware of them. And that's very good information. And I think the actual work of coming back to your body, to me, it doesn't really look too much like those big reconnection ceremonies, the retreats, the big breath work sessions. That can be interesting things to do if you want to, push further, but they're not the daily work, the boring work that you need to put. And the daily work is so much smaller. It's a lot more boring than people make it sound. And I think that's also something that I realized after my discussion with the Pilates teacher. For instance, for my hips and lower back, following this discussion, what does it look like to do this boring work? Well, it does look like standing on my porch with my hands on my lower back, standing straight, and then very slowly kind of rounding my back down until, my hands will touch my feet. Really one area of the back at the time. And until I'm conscious of what area and I can see in my mirror that I'm actually rounding and rolling the right part of my back. And I'm conscious while I'm being conscious of it. Until I reach that point, I just keep doing it again and again slowly. Get back to standing straight. And then I will again roll down my back until I am conscious of what part of my back I'm being rolling in real time. And see how boring it sounds? But if I do that on a daily, I know that eventually I will be able to identify and to be more aware of each and every part of my back. I will know when my upper back is rolling, when my middle back is rolling, when my lower back is rolling, when my tailbone is being active and moving. And that's just practice and patience. And that's it. That's the work. And some days I'm going to be really bad at it, and that's okay. I did think before that conversation with the teacher that I was more advanced than I am, obviously. And that's not a failure. That's just where I am, and there's just still a lot of room for improvement. And it's really a matter of taking your time. So if there's a part of your body that you don't think about too often, maybe if you pick just one, because you don't want to be trying to reconnect with your entire body in 7 days or all at once. That's really not how it works. But if you just pick one area of your body that you feel like you're lacking flexibility, it's in pain more often than it should be. For women that are a lot in their heads, it is quite often the hips and the jaws. So that's why I kind of spend time talking about the hips and the lower back. But then if you pick one area of your body like that really needs more care and more attention, then a few times a day you can do the boring job. Because what I told you about rolling my back doesn't take long. It doesn't take much space. It doesn't require, a specific environment to do it. So that really gives you the opportunity to do it a few times a day. And that really gives you a chance also to notice how it feels on a daily basis, and ideally several times a day. And over time, of course, after a long time, you will start noticing more and more difference. And when I mean more and more difference, I'm not even talking about the flexibility here, right? I'm talking about the awareness, like being in control of each and every part of your body, knowing that there are muscles here, knowing how to activate them, knowing how to roll every part of your spine and be in control of that. And the nice thing is that you might be surprised at what comes up, or you might even be surprised at how nothing comes up at all, because you may be doing it to, gain awareness in order to maybe gain flexibility, or it might just be a very nice way to bring back awareness to some parts of your body and just feel them and just breathe into them and just feel more easily when pain comes into it so that you can actually prevent the pain or treat it better. But either is fine, really. And I think this Pilates teacher, without really wanting to, she just reminded me how important patience is in that process. And it's actually something that I take more and more positively, I guess, with more and more patience, precisely. Because first of all, I do see the impact of the work that I've been doing these past few years. And even though I'm still so far from where I want to be eventually, I see the benefits already of everything that I'm working on. And I think that was just a tiny reminder that things take time. It takes a lot of time. But again, there's nothing wrong with discovering that there's new parts of your body that you're not really in control of or you don't have full awareness of at any age, really. I'm in my mid-30s. You can be in your 40s, in your 50s, in your 60s. Doesn't really matter. There's always room for improvement and to get reconnected with parts of your body that you were not expecting to be that disconnected from. And again, the great news is that it takes very little effort and time to do the boring work to reconnect with it. So that's the message I'd like to pass today. And if that speaks to you, please make sure that you send it to someone around you, another sister, another great woman who needs to hear it, because I think we're too many stuck in our head and too disconnected from parts of our body when it takes literally very simple and easy daily work to improve that. So let's just spread the word.